Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I have 3 new Dollar Tree Christmas DIYs for you. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any new videos. Now let's get started on those DIYs. So for this DIY, I'm going to use these porch signs that you can get from Dollar Tree. I thought this would be such a cute idea to cut out the faces of the Nutcracker, the elf, and the snowman and make like a little photo opt with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Nutcracker because that one seemed the easiest, which it was. And I just used a little heat gun to get the mustache off because I'm going to save that for later. And then I drilled a hole in the middle of the face. And then I used my jigsaw to trace around the hat and the hair and the chin of the Nutcracker. So the hat was raised, it's a separate piece, so that was easy. And then the hair and the chin, it was easy to follow those lines. So I just went around with the jigsaw and cut that face out following those lines. And then I did take a little piece of sandpaper and kind of come back around. This is particle board, so it's definitely soft wood and it really wouldn't cut you or anything, but just to make sure there wasn't anything, I wanted to take that sandpaper and go around the edges. Then I took a skewer and that mustache and I hot glued that skewer on to the mustache so that way you can still use that in the photo op. Now for the elf, this was a little bit more difficult. So the hat again was raised off of the head of the elf, so that way I could use that line to cut around, but I did use a pencil to kind of trace around, and I wanted to leave around the edges, kind of like the jaw and the chin of the elf, so that way it would stay intact. So I traced that with a pencil and then cut around it with the jigsaw, and it worked perfectly, and I sanded it down. Now I moved on to the snowman, and unfortunately the snowman wasn't well, it would have been as easy as the elf, but I accidentally messed up on the snowman, and you can see it here. I'm cutting around. I traced it with a pencil. I did the hole in the center, just like everything, and the first side went smoothly, had no problems. And then the scarf is actually not attached. It's a separate piece. So I traced around that. And then when I came around the hat, I didn't stop the jigsaw in enough time. And well, I cut the whole piece off. So unfortunately, I had some repair work to do. So I ended up just cutting off the hat entirely and having 2 separate pieces, the body and the hat. And I was going to have to figure out how to attach the hat to the body. So after thinking about it and looking at my craft stash, I finally found these couple pieces of scrap wood that actually came from Dollar Tree. It's really soft wood and it was the same thickness as the sign, so it was going to work perfectly. So I just marked the pieces where I needed to cut them out. So you can see I did one off camera, and I used that as a template to score around the piece of wood, and I made it curved so that way you would get that facial curve back onto the snowman. And I took an X-Acto knife and I just scored that piece of wood and bent it as much as I could until it finally broke apart and I had that curved piece of wood cut out. Then I sanded both the pieces down really well so that way nobody would get any splinters. And then now I need to attach it to my body of my snowman now. So once I flip the sign over, you can see there's 2 little divots where the head and the hat was attached before. That's where it got cut off. And these 2 pieces of wood fit perfectly in there. I hot glued them into place, and then I did use a staple gun to staple everything down so that way it would be really secure. Now I just need to attach the hat to those two pieces of wood. So I used a little hot glue to secure the hat in place. And then I wanted the wood to match the rest of the body and not just stand out. So I used a little white acrylic paint and painted those pieces of wood to match everything. And then the crisis was averted and we were back on track and I could finish the project with no other problems. Next, I laid the three pieces upside down and put them close together. And then I took some scrap wood. I had some scrap 2x4s lying around, and I just cut them to the length of what the feet of all three of the characters put together would be, and I used a little wood glue to glue them together. And then I took another piece of scrap wood I had and glued down the top. I let that dry for 24 hours, and then the next day I came back and I took another piece of scrap wood, which was a 2x4. I wish I would have had another one of those 2x2s because that probably would have worked better, but this worked out also. And I just cut the ends of them at an angle so that way I could attach that 2x4 to that 2x2 with some screws. And then that way I would have a little stand to stand everything up. And I wish, again, it was a 2x2 because it would have been not as heavy. But all I had, again, was the 2x4s and it still worked out fine. And you could definitely attach this with some hinges and it would work out perfectly that way too. I love how this DIY turned out. It is a perfect photo op for the kiddos at Christmas time. Now, I didn't have any kiddos to model this for you, so I edited myself into these photos so you could see what it would look like with some faces in it, but it would definitely be cuter for the kiddos at Christmas time. It's a perfect, affordable DIY to have fun with. For this next DIY, it's super simple. I took a 18-inch wire wreath form from Dollar Tree and also some of this chunky utensil garland, and I wrapped the wreath in the chunky utensil garland. I just wrapped the garland around the wreath form to start off to secure it, kind of just wrapped it in between the rungs of the wreath form, and then I just continued to wrap it all the way around until I got to the end. One of these garlands was enough to cover the whole wreath form, and then I did the same thing to secure the other end of the garland to the wreath form so that way it stayed in place. Now I'm going to take these solar powered ornaments from Dollar Tree. I love these. They are pretty bright. You just want to make sure you unscrew the top of each one of them and turn them on so that way they light up. And then I took some wire just to secure them around the wreath form. It was a little bit difficult to get it through that tinsel just because it was kind of hard to see and my wire wasn't very long, but I secured them all in the end. I used 8 of these and I just placed them all around the wreath, just making them kind of different directions. I love how this turned out. Of course, my front door does get a lot of sunlight, so I'm not worried about them charging. So you want to make sure that you put it somewhere that does get a lot of sunlight and it will work out perfectly. I love how these look for Christmas time. Last but not least, I'm going to use some of this nautical rope from Dollar Tree and some green spray paint that I had on hand. I'm just going to spray paint the ropes green so that way it looks like wire. And then I'm going to take some more of those ornaments from Dollar Tree that are solar powered and I'm going to string them onto the rope. I just use a little hot glue to secure each one. I didn't space them out that well. I just kind of used my hand to measure the spacing in between each one of them. But you could space them out a lot better. I ended up using 2 sets of rope for this. And I thought I was going to need all 3, but actually these are 6.8 feet long for the rope. So they were pretty long. And I was able to string 2 sets of each color on one rope. And then I went ahead once I got to the end and I hot glued the 2 pieces of rope together. And then I strung the last set that I had of the ornaments there. And that was it for this garland. It was super simple and it looks really pretty hanging up outside at night. I just ended up hanging up inside just because I couldn't figure out where I'm gonna put it yet. But if you don't have a outlet available, these definitely work out in a pinch. You can string them along your front porch or wrap them around some pillars or a tree and they look beautiful. Thank you all so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you did. And if you made it to the end of the video, leave me a Christmas tree emoji down in the comments. And also let me know which DIY you liked the best. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.